Welcome to our weekly Q&A. I'm your host Benji. Mark, if you guys are ready and set up on your end, we'll get started. Mark, I think I need to fire someone in my business. They've been in the business for a few years, but have been totally checked out for at least 12 months. Can you walk me through how you would approach this decision and then the steps involved?
That's a big one. There's a lot to unpack there. This is going to be a hard realization, but I got to share it with you just because that's my job. If you've had someone in your company disconnected for 12 months, then you really truly do need to look at yourself as a leader, because if you're holding one-to-one meetings and you're holding department meetings and you're holding company meetings and somebody is clearly not actually bought into your mission, your vision, and your plan as a company, then you got to ask yourself why they're still there. Either you've created a culture where people like that can feel comfortable hanging out and not getting anything done, which is a problem, or you're ignoring the problem. One or the other. You've either made an exception for this person within a great culture, or you have a culture where people like this can survive. Either way, it's a leadership problem at this point, and you really need to deal with that component. So I will say this, there's always going to be people in your business who are checked out. It's just going to happen, and it's not your fault as a leader. Everybody is going through life and they're experiencing life from within themselves. The way they see the world has a lot to do with where they've come from and what they're experiencing in other parts of their life. And you can't control all of that. But if somebody's been in your business for a full year in that state, that is something that you have to look at closely as a leader and ask yourself why. When you have clear strategy, when the company has a clear mission and vision, when you've shared it regularly and you've set goals that help other people understand how you're going to make that mission and vision become a reality, they're either all in or they're all out. But you make it so uncomfortable by talking about the mission, the vision, the goals, and the scorecard that great people stay and disconnected people leave and find something that's more suitable for them. And that doesn't mean they're not great people. It just means they're not a great fit. And so my answer is maybe a little indirect. And please don't take that one too personally, because I think we all have work to do here. I never stop trying to focus on getting better as a leader. And when you've got somebody hanging around too long, it points directly back at you. And I've made the same mistake many, many times. It's a hard one to learn, and it's even a more difficult one, I think, to change. But it all starts with you as a leader.
This person's name is Mike. Can we give Mike just a few points on? So I hear you 100%. This is maybe an opportunity to do some reflection, but there'll be other people listening who either had to do this very recently or will have to do it soon. So it might be good for the group. Like when the decision's being made, whether they've been checked out for a month or a year, but the decision is now being made. Mark, how do you approach prepping for that conversation? What kind of words do you say? How do you frame it to make it as approachable of a conversation for you as the leader, realizing it's still going to be difficult, as painless as possible for the person you're exiting? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think sometimes it helps to visualize this stuff. Thanks for the nudge there, Benji. I do aim to give actionable takeaways for answers. I think there's a couple key things. Like, first off, we talk about job descriptions a lot. We talk about mission and vision. We talk about goals, scorecards, and we talk about meetings. And when we have underperforming staff, I think it's just really important that we always reflect back on ourselves enough to just say, okay, wait a minute. Like, is this person clear on the mission? Are they clear on the mission? Do they have a really clear job description that tells them what good looks like? And so this is us just being fair and making sure that people have the foundational items. So I'm going to call this stuff like the basics. Is that stuff in place? Yes or no? Because if it's not, then the likelihood of you feeling completely aligned is going to be pretty low, particularly the job description, right? This one tells them what they need to do each day to help you deliver on the mission and vision that you've set for the company. So that one's pretty important. Then, did we give them clear goals? And were those goals like SMART goals? Were they actually something that were really clear, that had exceptionally clear outcome statements that really made sense to the person who we assigned them to? Was there a metric that they could operate within to know whether or not they're on track? And did we set a real timeline? Have we actually said, hey, I need you to get this done by this date? And then they failed to do it. That is a really important question to ask yourself. Is there something that you gave them a very clear goal, a SMART goal, and they failed to do it? And when you went back to them and said, hey, what's going on here? Why isn't this happening? Did they give you any answers? And so I like to say, like, this is step one. This is step two. Like, I need to make sure I've given them clear goals, and I've given them a way to measure it with a scorecard or a metric of some sort, right? And then the last thing is have I given them the space? Have I actually given them meeting time, one-to-one meeting, group meetings, team meetings, to actually then reflect on the metrics and talk about how to make them better? Have I actually coached them up? And so this coaching component, you got to ask yourself, when you're deciding to fire people, have you actually gone through all of these stages as a leader? And if you haven't, then I would actually look at doing this before firing people, because I truly believe that it costs us around plus or minus 250 to 350,000 per turnover. And I think it's cheaper to try to light somebody's fire than it is to replace them. And if these three core things, and these are just the middle, the sort of the center of the universe, the foundation, if these aren't in place, then ask yourself if your expectations were actually reasonable before you fire somebody. And then also ask yourself, hey, are they just disconnected because they don't feel aligned? Because you know what this really does? It just creates alignment. And if you go around judging people like I did for many, many years, if you go around judging people without creating a foundation for alignment, then you're just telling yourself stories. And guess what? Nobody will ever be good enough to be a part of your organization if they can't read your mind. That's the piece of advice that I want to really give as a takeaway. Make sure these are in place. Ask yourself if they were clear, and if they actually let you down, or if they let you down because you weren't clear. There's a big difference.
Awesome. That was a great answer. Thank you for rounding that out for everyone. Question from Christy. It's a long one, so just listen carefully, and I'll read it all out so you have sufficient context. Christy says, we did 1.3 million in 2024 and did 2.1 million in 2025. We have the owner, contract sales, me, VP of operations. I'm all over the place managing overall business development and strategies. Owner helps, but mostly only when it comes to sales and estimating. Office admin manages phone calls, receivables, payables, scheduling consultations, and onboarding. Salesperson does new construction sales and production management. Ops manager oversees all activities involving production. When I advocate the need and importance of ongoing training with the field crews, more development conversations, one-on-one check-ins, and the like, it doesn't happen at all. We're constantly getting feedback about my guys not being happy, not feeling appreciated. And in my mind, it's because we aren't investing in the people. So that's the setup. One, how do you navigate the excuse of we don't have time? Two, how would you structure making time? We start at 6:45 a.m. and everyone is out the yard by 7. You get all that?
Yeah, can we just find out if they're in a winter market or a summer market? I just want that answer. I'm going to answer it both ways, but I just want to know for their use. Okay, so what we're actually talking about is time. That's what we're actually talking about. I think it's really important when we start to talk about continuous improvement that we actually get back to the one thing that's usually holding us back from making change. It's time. That's the thing, right? What specifically was said was there's no time to develop staff. So we don't have time to develop staff. So instead, what we do is we go around and we work with people who are completely untrained. And if we look at that and we get to my very famous value stream map, if we just value stream map untrained staff, and if you sit down as a leadership team, sounds like a fairly small leadership team, and you actually talk about what happens when your field staff specifically are not very well trained. Now, walk through the course of a day from the time they get to the yard till the time they get back to the yard or till they leave.
Mark, they do snow, by the way. Sorry to interrupt.
Okay,
yes,
they
on
do
the
snow. Okay,
Yeah.
great. So throughout the day, there's going to be lots of things that happen. And what I want you to focus on are all of the flow interruptions. And I want you to put a list together. And like, maybe here they forget the material, here they forget the gas. Maybe during the work day, they lay 200 square feet of pavers in a day instead of, 600. Give us the flow interruptions. Like, talk about production rates, really kind of go through this whole list in your business. And then what I want you to do is I want you to consider, if all of those things were gone, how much more revenue would be produced in a day. Now, this is a big project. This is going to take you 4 hours on a whiteboard to figure out. But trust me, one thing the pattern recognition that you will create from doing this exercise will reinforce just how important it is to do this. And then you'll say, well, wait a minute, all we have is time. All we have is time. Now, right now we have no time because we work this way. But in an 8-hour day, if we're only getting 4 hours of productive time done right now, what would happen if we doubled it? And trust me, you can double your productive time with a good morning rollout, good tool trailers, well-trained staff who know how to do the work, standard operating procedures for managing labor and material and equipment and subcontractors and information. When all these people are trained, what happens is this just keeps moving faster. So we actually end up finding 4 extra productive hours per employee per day when we have highly developed staff. You literally get twice the work done every single day from each person. Now, I'm certainly not talking about thousands of hours of training. I'm talking about like 100 to 200 hours of training per year. So 100 to 200 hours of training and meetings combined. Now, who pays for this? Your customer. You put that time in your overhead budget, and because you work so much faster than your competition, the cost of this training is minuscule as a ratio to sales. It's a really small cost. Now, the nice part is if you're in the winter area, or even if you're in a really hot area, during the coldest months or the hottest months, we can do a little bit more training when schedule permits. And so we can train to the standard operating procedures. We can train them on efficiency. We can teach them 5S and how to identify waste. We can teach them what our expected production rates look like. We can teach them how to read estimates, scope of work for maintenance crews, drawings, site plans, construction details, how to use the tools, how to do the work. All these things can be done in the winter or in that hot season when things aren't growing and you've got a little bit more time. And we can do that training in a way where we move faster throughout the year. Now, obviously, we don't want to spend too much time training in our busy months, and that's normal. You mentioned what time you leave the yard. Completely normal. Let's not spend a lot of time training when we should be producing. Let's spend a little bit more time training ahead of the season, but then during the season, we're going to switch to an on-the-job training program. And so what I want you to think of, that's OJT, on the job training. What I want you to think of is during the course of the year, if we did use the 5 meeting model and every day on the job sites, we're having a morning meeting, an after break, morning break, lunch, afternoon break, end of day meeting. And every time we're talking about optimizing the flow in the business and eliminating all of this waste because we've trained the team to think this way, what we end up doing is we create a machine where you become a continuous learning organization. And so training is not just in the 100 to 200 hours. The 100 to 200 hours is training people to be a part of a learning organization. We're actually trying to unlock this huge potential of just teaching everybody in the company to think and act like entrepreneurs or intrapreneurs, knowing that if they eliminate the waste, they open up more opportunity to increase their wages, increase the profits, and really sort of get that vision that we have for the business to become a reality, and their vision for their own lives to also become a reality all at once. This takes a lot of time. It's not something that you do in a 1-hour morning meeting or a 2-hour training. This is continuous improvement, and it's something that you either believe in or you don't. And if you're in a company that doesn't believe in it, right now, I'll urge you to do this. Come to our July 14th and 15th strategic planning event. Bring your owners, bring the leadership team, and sit for 2 days and create a 3-year strategy that revolves around building a continuous improvement company. And then what you'll notice is you're always training, you're always developing. It's not an event, it's a system. It's just a way of operating. And we call that LeanScaper. Hopefully you can make it there, and we'll show you exactly how to become that continuous learning organization.
Well, we got a fun one here from Tiffany. Sounds like it's about acquisition. We are looking to purchase another company. They just did about $600,000 in revenue, and we did about $375,000 in revenue, assuming they're talking about 2024. It is definitely going to be a pretty big jump. What is the best way to merge the companies together smoothly?
Okay, well, don't know if the owner's staying on or anything. That's a really difficult question without knowing a little bit more info. When you say merge, does that mean the owners are merging and becoming co-partners, or does that mean one is truly acquiring the other? Acquisition being one person is buying the other company and taking over, and merger is they're coming together to be one as business partners. So going from $0 to $1 million for every business, whether you do it organically or whether you do it through acquisition, the owner operator is literally doing everything. So the founder reliance here, founder critical, right? If the owner stops going to work, the business stops functioning. Really important thing to note here. If you're going to go as a $375,000 business and you're just going to buy, which is you acquiring them, not partnering up, a $600K business, you're kind of leaping right to the $1 million point. So you're kind of getting to the other end of the spectrum fast. Now, founder critical owner operators, they focus on sales, customer service, the financial management of the business, operations for sure. Nothing happens without them ordering material or letting people know where to go. And so you got to kind of think like you're the seller, you're the customer service person, you're probably also the mechanic, the fleet manager, you know, you've got everything. So what you're doing here is you're learning how to kind of master the business. And so this business mastery sets you up to go from 1 to 3 million. And the way that you do it is you start to take all of these tasks and you operationalize them using systems instead of you. And so what you're doing when you're getting to 1 million is you're actually just learning enough about sales, service, financials, operations to create systems so that you can start to bring on managers. So here, 0 to a million, there's usually not a lot of management. There might be a couple of like early stage managers, but they're not truly managing without the owner's involvement. Here, what we're starting to do is we're starting to add managers. And as we grow, we add a sales manager, a finance manager, an ops manager, maybe an account manager. Over time, we're going to add different roles, but these management roles start to flow into your business between 1 and 3 million. Your big challenge in buying a business and jumping straight to a million is they probably didn't have systems, this 600K business, and you probably don't have systems to power $1 million business. So you're going to have to create systems relatively quickly and focus on the main systems that have the biggest impact in each area. And if you're using the LeanScaper operating system, using the 4 quadrants, we're going to work on finance, we're going to work on the customer perspective, we're always going to be working on growing people, which isn't even on this list here yet. And without a doubt, we always have to focus on operational efficiency. So we're going to create some systems in each area that power $1 million business and enable you to hire managers to then keep growing the business. But I'll just strongly urge you that as soon as you make this transaction, you're going to notice that everything feels a lot more broken than it did before, because you're really going, 2.5 times revenue pretty quick. You're getting to $1 million without systems. And generally what people do when they organically grow from 375 to 1 million is they're working on systems. Now, because you're skipping the step, you're just going to get to $1 million with the systems you have today. And I have no idea whether they're good or bad or non-existent or partially existent. You only know this, but I'll say this. You're going to have to go really deep on systems. And my advice is make sure that you do them equally in each area of the business. So you keep selling, you keep getting more efficient, you keep growing people, and you keep monitoring the financial health in balance. And that's what the LeanScaper operating system helps with.
Okay, question from Anonymous. Hi, I manage the design and accounts team at a landscaping company, and I'm looking for advice on handling a recurring issue. The owner and our department manager tend to have really long conversations, sometimes 4 or 5 hours, multiple times a week. I'm laughing because I've been there, which delays decision making and pushes last minute work onto my team when deadlines are tight. Do you have any tips on how to navigate this kind of situation or set up better boundaries without overstepping? That's a great question.
It sounds like you are part of a company that does not have a meeting structure. You need a meeting structure. So we call that the core 4 meetings here at LeanScaper. It's pretty simple. Everybody has to have a one-to-one with whoever they report to. Your team meetings, ideally, should be each day, typically, maybe each week, depending on the nature of the work, but crews are definitely each day. And typically account managers and salespeople are again, kind of daily huddles. So team huddles. Then we're going to want to have a weekly meeting, and we'll probably want to have a monthly meeting that kind of doubles as a quarterly every few months. One-to-one meetings are 30 minutes. They're highly tactical meetings. This is us talking about like, how are you doing with the things that you're working on right now? What can I help with? How are you trending against this month's goal? Is there anything that I can do to help? Where are you feeling behind? Where are you struggling? It's a coaching call, right? We're there to figure out what the current reality is, get a true understanding of what they're feeling like and how they're doing, and then coach them up. That's what we're doing here. 30 minutes. Team huddles, ideally, 15 minutes each morning, maybe 30 at the most, depending on what you do. Each team's going to be a little different. But again, we're just talking tactical. Like, here's the project we're working on together. here's what I'm doing, here's what you're doing, here's our goal for today. This is what I expect to get done by the end of the day. Here's what I'm trying to close today, whatever that topic happens to be. I'm going to keep that pretty short. Weekly meetings, ideally, these are team meetings. And these should be an hour. And again, we're still talking pretty tactical, but we're now talking a little higher level. We're talking as a team. What's everybody doing on the team? What are we going to do in the next week? We're talking like this is a sprint, like highly, highly tactical action items. Monthly and quarterly, what we're doing is we're setting strategy. Now, it sounds to me like a 4 to 5 hour meeting is a group of people hanging out, having a really great strategic conversation. Now, strategic conversations can be a total waste of time if they're not tied to a strategic planning process. This is why I invite people to come down and spend 2 days on strategy with your team in Charlotte through a guided journey of what strategic planning looks like. So that in 2 short days, you walk away with a strategy that you can talk about each month. Each month, you're going to revisit, update, make some tweaks, talk about what you're going to do. Each quarter, you're going to reset some quarterly goals. Then each week, we're just going to talk about what we're actually doing as it relates to the projects that feed or support that strategy. And then in our one-to-ones, we're just talking about things that need to be talked about, whether it's small performance issues, major strategies around developing that employee so that they can do more or apply themselves to the business differently. We're talking about tactical problems, could be even some personality issues mixed in, but we're just there coaching, and it's very, very tactical. So it sounds to me like there's not really a structure, and so it just kind of turns up that there's a couple people who like to talk, hanging out, having a lot of conversation, which is totally cool, but it's probably because of this. Some business owners really don't know how to do this, and so they do that the way they know best, which is through conversation. And so I wouldn't fault the person for it. They just probably don't understand how to actually share strategy within the context of a meeting structure that is founded upon a 3-year strategic plan.
Great answer. I'm going to go back to one that I skipped over earlier because I needed a little bit more context. Mark, if you feel like you've hit this one a bunch in the past, you can maybe go quicker on it. But Ben is more or less asking, I'm sort of wordsmithing his messages into the question, which is, I think what he wants to know is what Mark Bradley's balanced scorecard looks like. They're beginning to implement some right now for the whole team, but him as a leader, and he just wants a bit of a snapshot if possible.
To be completely honest, do not actually have a balanced scorecard in business. I do have a personal balanced scorecard. My role in LeanScaper, I'm the chairman, and I don't have a balanced scorecard, believe it or not. I contribute to the company level scorecard, and I consider that scorecard to be my personal scorecard. So my name is next to goals within the company, and those goals are measured at a company level. But that's my answer. Just where I'm at right now in my career, I did have a scorecard as a CEO, and I think CEOs should have a scorecard. But as a chairman, my job is to guide everybody on the team, and my true scorecard will be my 360 feedback that I get from everybody on the team at the end of the year. So my feedback mechanism is just truly directly from those that I'm coaching.
Okay, cool. Let's move on. Question from Mohammed. I am the office manager in a design and build and commercial maintenance landscaping company, and we are trying to automate some of our customer service processes. From your experience, what processes should be automated and which ones still require personal touch? I just don't want to lose customers because we don't want to. I don't want to lose customers because we make our experience overly digitized and automated.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
that's
think
the
I
question.
think we covered this one a couple weeks back actually in one of our weekly sprint calls, and I mean I like to just refer to this as the customer journey. It's an easy way to kind of think about everything that the customer is going to experience from the time that they first call right on through to a mature relationship, we'll call it. And so what has to happen from the time that they call through to get a mature relationship in your business? Now, from the first call, maybe somebody needs to answer the phone, but maybe not. Maybe most of your first calls are actually coming in through a web form. Now, lots of people like using web forms instead of calling an office. I'm one of those people. I don't think I would have said that 20 years ago, but I've certainly gotten a lot more comfortable with web forms where I can tell somebody to text or email me back rather than phone, leave a voicemail. I don't use voicemail, so I don't want one back. And so I have a way where I've gotten used to web forms. Now, not everybody's going to like that. Some people still want to call. So I want to make sure that either one of these points are completely frictionless. But what I want to make sure is that when I get to the first meeting and I decide to create a meeting with the customer, that first off, I've screened them enough to warrant the meeting, and that I also am able to invest in that meeting and create the best experience possible without over investing my time, which means I need to start with a 15-minute discovery, and I'm going to want to do that meeting this day and age. I'm going to want to do that meeting over a virtual meeting, whether you're using Teams or Google Meets or Zoom or whichever. I want to invite somebody there. So what that means is my web form actually goes direct to book a meeting. Whoever's answering the phone is booking a meeting. And so again, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to make sure that in order to service customers, I'm making it easy to book meetings. If it's an existing customer and they want to come back for more, they want to buy more, they need more service, there's a problem on their property, whatever it is, I want to make it easy for them to contact us and book a meeting. And then I want to be able to give them their 15 minutes of my undivided attention. I want to talk about, if it's a new prospect, I want to talk about what they want, make sure that it matches our service offering before I go to actually meet on site. If it's something simple, maybe I'll even price it right there, if it's just simple weekly service. If it's something more complex, then I'm going to go ahead and book a meeting. But again, what I'm trying to do is take all the friction out and make it easy for them and easy for me at the same time. And I get what you're saying about not making it too like out of reach in terms of like the personal connection. I think that's really important. But I think that people want speed and they want efficiency. And when I do 15-minute discovery calls, I can do, 10 of those in a day. I can't drive around and meet 10 people in a day. So this time of year, why don't I do 10 of these today, and then I'll do in-person meetings tomorrow, but I'll only do 3. But the 3 that I'm doing meetings with are 3 that I've really highly screened through my calls, my web forms, and my discoveries. And now the 3 people that I go meet with are highly likely to transact. And they're definitely buying exactly what I'm selling because I've taken the time to screen them. And again, I think creating a really good customer journey really relies on like changing the way you think about doing things. It can't be just doing everything the way you've always done it. So go right around the wheel. I don't have time to do that today, but go right around this wheel and think about all the friction points in your business, from the way that you send estimates, the way that you get proposals approved and change orders approved, and the way that you issue deposit invoicing and collect milestone billing or monthly payments from your maintenance clients. Think about how they request follow-up services or warranty work, and think about how many of those things could be just highly optimized with something as simple as a book a meeting link that you add to your email footer and add to your web page and add to every page on the website, so that you're just easy to get a meeting with. And those slots are predetermined 15-minute meetings where you can talk to them about a deficiency, about a change order, about an extra, but it's just embedded in your day-to-day workflows. And I think that simplifies everything and really changes your customer communication strategy.
Love that. Nice balance between automated and robotic. Hope that gave you what you needed, Mohammed. Let's move on to another one from, I think this is just anonymous. Hey, Mark, we have attempted to implement a training program using Greenius, assigning due dates for both our English and Spanish speaking team members. We are now finding an issue of education with our Spanish speaking workers in their own language. Many have immigrated here in pursuit of living wages and a better life, but put their education on hold and do not have the basic literacy skills. What is the best way to tackle these employees? What is the best way to tackle these issues with our employees so we can level them up?
Great question. So with Greenius in particular, it is purpose built for you to deploy your own courses. So when we made that acquisition originally, the number one project that we went to work on was a course building tool, which enables you to deploy training using video-based training that you've created for your company in whatever language you like, and with your tools and your background and your SOPs or your onboarding or your way of doing things. And so it does take a little bit of work to film those videos, but the best part is now it's just verbal. And whether somebody's really strong with their writing and reading or not, you can train them how to use the app because it's a very easy app to use, and they can log in and do their training all on video. And this way you can at least confirm that they've done the training, it's all being tracked that they've done the training, and you know that they're learning as they go. Now, outside of that, I would highly recommend that you put together a literacy program in your company, if that's a common problem, to help people seek out education and learn how to read and write better, regardless of their age. It's kind of miraculous to see how quickly people can learn. I had to teach my father when I was in 7th grade how to read and write better. You know, he had the basics, but not very much. He was a fully licensed plumber, working in a nuclear plant, living a successful life, but he wasn't very good at reading and writing. And within a year of working on that, he was reading and writing at, a high school graduate pace in 1 year. And the real true reason was just when he was younger, he didn't have glasses when he was in school because he couldn't afford them. And he had really bad eyes, so couldn't see the words, so therefore couldn't learn. There's thousands of stories out there like that everywhere. There are all kinds of people who just didn't get the opportunity to learn, but if you give them the opportunity within a year or two, they'll probably be right up there with anybody who finished high school. And I really just think that making that a priority will show not only who you are, but how much you care. And by investing in your employees to that level, I think you're going to create a machine, and it'll be an unstoppable one. So I would look at this as your biggest opportunity, and I would point the cannons at not only building out that video-based training, but also creating a literacy program in your company.
Love it. Thank you. This is a follow-up question from Christy, who you'll remember earlier asked about just like finding time for training, and you answered via the Vibe board. So this is her knock-on question. I'm going to skip a few of the sentences and just get to the main part of her question, which was, I attended your webinar yesterday and I saw how much you talked about investing in the people first. And you just talked about the alignment for an employee. The focus in our company right now is that it is a they problem, not a we problem. What can I do to shift the mindset of our business and our leadership to be a little bit more we focused?
Ooh, that's a that's a doozy. I always feel like I'm talking about the owners behind their backs when I answer this one, but really I'm just talking about myself. So just hear what I'm going to say and know that this is me just talking about myself. In your business, there is no they problem. There is only a problem at the leadership level. Every single problem that exists in any company in the world is a reflection of the leadership. And so if there's an ongoing problem with the quality of the people, then there's a leadership problem. The leaders are not hiring people with a growth mindset, and then they're not developing those people. And so what you're left with is people with a fixed mindset, because that's who you hired, and you're not investing in training them. Now, when you do go to train people with a fixed mindset, they're really hard to train because they don't believe that they can have more. And again, this is a leadership problem. If you don't have the right people in your company, then you hired the wrong people. You hired people with a fixed mindset. The way to fix that is to learn how to hire people with a growth mindset, and then create a career development program where you start to teach those people immediately when they come into the company. This starts with your job ads, your job descriptions, and then you follow through with your training program. If you don't have the right people in your company, it's a leadership problem, plain and simple. The business is a reflection of the leader, and every problem inside of it is a shortfall in the leader's ability to lead. The best part about being in business for me has been the fact that it pushed me to be a better person, to be a better human, to be more empathetic, to treat others with kindness. And there is no they problems. There's only a me problem in a business that I own and operate. That would be my advice.
Well said. Christy, she said, love that answer. Thank you, Mark. All caps. Hey, Christy, there's a really great book that's really popular in this space that is sort of the go-to when it comes to this accountability thing, and it's Extreme Ownership by Jocko. So maybe go and read that and leave a copy on the desk somewhere politely.
Or
It's a
send them the YouTube video. It's incredible.
yeah.
Like there's a one YouTube video that kind of explains the whole book, and it's incredible.
I'll see if we can dig that up and send it to you, Christy, the video. This is a question from Chris. I feel like we've hit on this before, but it keeps coming up in these Q&As, Mark. Kind of about not fighting a losing battle. So here goes. We are located in a rural area with small centers from about 20,000 people to 60,000 people, all within about an hour's drive from our shop. As we try to grow our summer maintenance side, we are climbing what feels like a losing battle against low-priced chuck in the trucks. All our lost contracts this spring, and there have been a few, have said they were really happy with our services, but our price is just too high. Looking for marketing and strategy to get out of this repetition of losing a contract to price regardless of service. What are your thoughts?
So there's only really one way to get out of what you're describing, and that is to really workshop what your brand stands for. When you get into business, naturally, you get into business, you do everything for everybody. You know, in the first year or so, if the phone rings and they've got money to spend, we say yes. And so we keep saying yes and yes and yes and yes until we realize that some of the things we're saying yes to don't make any money. Now, it's a shame that that's the way it is, but that's the way it is. And I don't think we're ever going to change that. Not now, not ever. And the simple fact that our industry has created more millionaires than any other trade industry tells me that that's actually a good problem, the problem that we just talked about. So the fact that there's people in your market stealing your work is actually a good problem. When you start to see it that way, what that does is it forces you to start saying no and to specialize. And so what this means is you've now earned the right to take a step up in the market. And I always say, like, level 5 leadership is replacing ourselves many times. And I believe we should be doing this in business as well. And that's why I've always been such a fan of being tight with my competitors in my local market. Sometimes people, don't like their competitors, or they complain about the person that's undercutting. In my career, I always tried to pull those people up. And so if you are down here right now, I don't know where you're at in business, so don't take any of this the wrong way. But if you're down here right now in this realm, I'll say, of work where the national companies, and if you're a national company, this may or may not be you, I'm just going to be nice. You're coming in and you've got private equity money that needs to grow market share. And so what they do is they buy that market share. So we've got the big national people coming in and buying up market share by working for free. And then we've got the chuck in a truck, as you called them, coming in right from the very bottom, and they're trying to take that market share. You know, they start over here, but they very quickly start to penetrate this market. And so if you're operating inside this highly competitive infrastructure down here, this is where everybody's looking. Everybody wants those same contracts. Now, there is another market up here. And this is a niche market. If you try to mature a business in the middle range, I'm going to say $3 to $10 million companies, they have a really hard time actually functioning in this middle market, because chuck in a truck is screwing them from the bottom and the nationals are screwing them from up top. You lose every contract you get because the big guys say they're bigger and better, and the small guys compete better on price than you do because they don't know any better yet. But if you're in the $3 to $10 million range, you understand what makes money. And so what you've actually done is you've earned the right to say no. Now, most people don't have the guts to say no, but this is the difference. When you actually get strategic and you start to run a strategic business, you decide what your value proposition is. You decide who your ideal customer profile is, and then you just build the perfect service, the perfect products for that ideal customer profile. And you just go narrow and deep. And that's what you have to do between 3 and 10 million to keep going. And then you can excel way past 30 million because you're the best at what you do. Now, there's lots of examples of this, all kinds of examples. It could even be in commercial snow removal. It could be in HOAs. It could be in landscape design build. It could be in landscape lighting. It could be in just doing outdoor kitchens. There's going to be this one thing that you can do bigger and better and faster if you train your staff to do it, if you speak to the customer's pain points, needs, desires better than everybody else, and if you explain your value proposition much, much better, you will win. But this, as a $3 to $10 million generalist company, trying to compete with the bottom feeders and the top feeders, you're never going to scale because they'll just keep taking your business. They'll force your pricing down here, and up here, they'll actually force your scope up. But what these bigger guys actually are doing is they go around and they watch for companies like you in the $3 to $10 million range who do a fantastic job at managing properties. And just when you've got that property looking perfect after 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, and it's just so perfect that you barely have to show up and cut the grass and it still looks perfect, well, that's when these national guys come in and they take that contract and they take it super cheap because you made it look so good that they barely have to work for the next 3 years. And they'll keep that contract for the next 3 years till it looks brutal. And then they'll fire them. And then you got to go in and clean it all back up. And so why bother? You're just going to sit in the middle and you're going to feel the pain from the top and the pain from the bottom. Move to a new market. Don't do it overnight, but pick the thing that you know makes high revenue per hour, the thing that is in high demand in your specific market, the thing that you're passionate about, and then train your staff to it, build a brand around it, market the shit out of it, and you'll win. But don't keep just competing in the middle. Don't be afraid to change. That's why strategy is so important. And these things shift over time, and your business is alive, it's growing. It can't just be done the same way all the time. Listen to the competition, then out strategize them. Change the business.
Let's fit in one super granular one here at the end with the time we've got. This is an equipment question, Mark. Walker B series with mulch deck versus same size right stander. From a lean perspective, do you think it's possible to generate a high ROI with the Walker through minimizing trimming time and ease of maintenance? For example, the weekly blade sharpening. So that's a very, very zoomed in equipment question. Maybe there's some broader lessons for us that we can learn too.
Wow, super tactical question, and I'm probably not the best guy to talk about that. I had a whole fleet of Walker mowers, but that was also 15 years ago. I still have a couple on my farms. They're great mowers, but I'm not really a mowing expert by any means. So I don't know the production rate timing of a stander versus a walker, and I haven't run those numbers enough to know. So I'd hate to tell you exactly one way or the other, depending on how many you're going to buy. If you're out to buy 100, I think you should do a study. If you're out to buy one, you know, I don't know if it makes that big of a difference, to be honest.
Okay.
But I'm probably not the best to ask, just being completely honest.
Sure. Let me chime in then, Joseph. That's the perfect kind of thing for the community and one of the groups in there. So if you want to go to equipment and fleet and ask that there, I'm pretty confident we can connect you with someone inside the LeanScaper community who can give you a more tactical question. Let's do this one to close. This is from a previous week, but I've had it in the queue here because I think it's a really good one. It's from Katrina. And she asks, Mark, do you do any mindset work? I'm curious what strategies you deploy to keep your head in the right place to lead at the level you do. I find the stress, the complexity, and the pressure pull me off my game.
Yeah, I certainly do, and I couldn't say that it's always been that way. So I believe that, our personal goals uh, really dictate our mental health. Mental health is probably the key foundational component to everything because we experience life from within. And if we're seeing life through a lens that is negative, then we're going to experience a negative life. And so we have to figure out a way to lift our spirits each day. And so the way that I do that is the way that I run my time and the way that I look at personal goals. So my personal goals were backwards for many years, but we're just going to say optimize, and then I'll list them all. So first, it's my mind and body. 2, it's optimize, again, my relationship with, at this point, my fiance, soon to be wife. 3, it's relationship again, but this time it's kids, family, community, which is people I work with, and my friends. They're all one and the same to me. And then 4, I want to be a continuous learner because my work is never done. I'm not even close to being optimized, and so I have to keep learning. And then 5th, for many, many years, it was, optimize myself as a CEO, optimize the business. I still have this optimize business outcomes on the list. Largely not money these days, a lot more impact driven, but still optimizing the outcome. Now, in order to keep this all straight in my own mind, I have to create a calendar that serves this. And so I kind of just want to look at that right beside my goals. And then I want to say, where do I actually spend my time? And if the start of my day starts out with optimizing my mind and body, and I can also stack that time with my relationships, I can work out with my kids. I can work out with my fiance. I can go for a hike. I can go for a dog walk, whatever it happens to be early in the morning. If that means I have to be up at 5 and I do this till 8, then so be it. But that stuff matters to me. And I'm going to get out of bed and I'm going to do it with intention because that is what I want my life to look like. And so where I spend my time today dictates what my life looks like in the future. And so I design the life around my goals. And so my morning routine goes hour by hour, but it serves these things. And then in the evenings, I've got time to be a continuous learner. My optimizing my business outcomes, that's going to happen through the workday. My relationship with my family, I'm going to make sure I see my parents each week. I'm going to make sure that I have meaningful phone calls with them 3 times a week. I'm going to make sure that I stack that time with other time. So if I'm going to sit in the sauna for 3 hours a week, I might as well stack that with time with family or time on the phone with family. And this way I'm serving multiple goals. But I keep it all straight by calendaring it, and then I just live the life that I've created in my calendar. So I calendar a full year with recurring meetings from 5 a.m. till 10 p.m. daily. And I don't always stick to it perfectly, but that is the plan. And once a week on Sunday nights, I reset that plan to see what I want to change or modify for the week. And then each day I have the discipline, and I have this saying, discipline or disappointment, to just live the life that I designed, because I designed it with intent around the goals that I created that serve my vision. And that gives me all the mental clarity I need. Now, what do I start each morning with? This is where I'll end. Gratitude. And I have that gratitude for myself for 15 minutes in the mornings. I have all kinds of gratitude for myself, for the life I've created, for the effort I put into my life. And I don't think many of us give ourselves enough gratitude. I always end my gratitude session with gratitude for others that I've attracted into my life, but I never fail to realize that I have attracted these things into my life. And if I do more of what I'm doing, I'll have more of these other people, other experiences, and other things to have gratitude for in my life. But I always recognize that it came from within and there were decisions that I made. Hopefully that helps. I think we're right on time here for the day. That was a big topic to pack in that fast. Hopefully that makes a little bit of sense. I could spend a whole day on that topic.
We will do, and we will. That is our commitment to you guys. We will absolutely build out more content on that one specifically, because I think it's the master unlock for everything. That is as good a place as any to wrap, guys. I will say one thing as we close. If you're not a part of our free online community yet, there's no time like the present to join. We're adding new users every week, new content every week, and the onslaught of content that we're going to be unloading in there from now until infinity is going to really impress you. So we hope you see in there. You can join by scanning that QR code. You can also just type in community.leanscaper.com. You go through a really simple sign-on form. It's very straightforward. Thank you all for being here. Thank you, Mark, as always. We will see you at the next one.
All right. Thanks, everyone.